Let me see you sitting up like, okay.
Yeah.
Kenton does
Is that your box of corn dogs?
Yes, they are.
More importantly.
You gonna throw some on the Barbie?
I already put one in the microwave now in the toaster.
Alright, I'm ready to shoot if you guys are ready to shut up.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
You must shoot.
Alright, just a couple.
You must shut.
A couple things, Johnny. When I ask you a question, do your best to try to reinstate it in your answer.
Okay.
Just
I understand.
Yep. When you can, give dates. You know, it's been a long time.
Yeah,
Everyone's
drugs,
had troubles.
alcohol.
I understand. State your name and give me a brief description of your relationship with Exploding Hearts.
I am Jonny Cat.
Actually, you know what, Johnny? I'm not even fucking kidding you. I forgot to focus. Let me stop this
Good.
really quick and get my... Because you moved around, so let me get my focus.
No,
set.
dude, you already fucked up. You're the Johnster.
Ah, thank you. See, you're supposed to shut. But that was essential. What he just did right there was fucking huge.
All right. So, state your name and give a very brief description in relationship to the Exploding Hearts.
I am the Johnster, and I don't...
Say your fucking name.
Okay, I am Jonny Cat. I think what you're asking me right now, like how to honor someone that you've lost, you know, and I've lost a lot of really good friends, and you know, last year I lost one of my best friends that I've ever had, and I can't, you know, the best way I can honor him is to just kind of put as much energy as I can into his memory, you know what I mean? And whether that's writing a song or, you know, I had Tim Kerr paint a fucking picture of him, you know, our album is called D-A-G-R-I-P, the new album, you know, I mean, I'm like trying to pay homage to this fucking soul, this person that was so important to me, you know what I mean? And he wasn't in the Exploding Hearts, but that's a prime example of like how I'm not gonna stop fucking remembering this guy and how he's fucking important to me, you know what I mean?
So how do you explain so many people feeling that way about 3 kids that never even met?
It's the same thing, man. The way I explain, you know, even people who didn't know them, maybe, you know what I mean, who feel that it's very important, who've connected themselves to, you know, the tragedy of it all, the pain. It's pain that you feel, you know, it's an aching that you can't stop. I think, you know, don't hide from it, you know what I mean? It's like you can't hide from that kind of fucking thing. You can't you can't bury that, you know what I mean? If you feel that, embrace it, because there's something about that that's fucking important, you know what I mean? When you lose someone, or even if even if they're not really a big part of your life, you know what I mean? Like, you don't gotta make excuses for why you feel it. You just need to let yourself feel it. And you know what? Embrace it, because that's very fucking human. You know what I mean? We are humans. And that is fucking pain, you know? And you can't always control everything, you know? Submitting is part of fucking dealing with shit. And it's fucking hard, you know? It's really fucking hard. And you might never get over it, you know? And you might not have to.
Hey everybody, thanks for coming.
Yay.
I'm Justin, for those of you who don't know me, and welcome to True Stories and Tall Tales about our dear friend Jonny Cat. There's a phrase that keeps coming up when people mention Jonny, and it's larger than life. He's our Pacific Northwest folk hero. Johnny continues to loom large, like Paul Bunyan, Babe, the Blue Ox, and Sasquatch. His life was cinematic, it was colorful. He was an explosion of personality. And we appreciate all you coming, and thank you all for everyone who's donated to Tina's GoFundMe to help cover expenses. Johnny gave big to Portland, and Portland has given big to the Johnster. And some housekeeping. Thanks so much to Keith and Alex and everybody at Blackwater for hosting us. Please tip your bartenders. Thanks to Seve also for helping set this up, and thanks to my partner in crime, Kenton McDonald, for making this happen. Thank you to AJ, who's filming, and thanks to all of you. Now, how this will work is some of you signed up for a time slot, and there's a whole bunch of people, so let's try and keep it to around 3 minutes. And at 3 minutes, I'm going to flash this flashlight at you, kind of like a stand-up comedy, to know that you've hit the mark. And then if you go over 5 minutes, we're going to bring up the music to cut you off. So it's sort of like the Oscars, except Johnny's voice will be singing you off stage. So the only person allowed to go longer than 5 minutes is Tina.
Yes.
And the rest of you, please don't, or you'll be humiliated by the Johnster's ghost himself in musical form. And then about halfway, we'll have a little intermission. Everybody can order a drink or go to the bathroom, have a cigarette. And then we'll finish off with some DJing of Johnny's favorite records. Sound good? We also have Johnny's favorite beverage on stage. Feel free to help yourself. The only thing you have to do is you have to drink it out of the cock shot glass. So there's a little funnel there. Yes, help yourself. There you go. So you have to pull the funnel up at the end, and then it'll, there you go. You know what you're doing. All right, he will, yeah, let's see how to do it. Demonstration. Yeah, pull the funnel up a little. Now bring the cock to the mouth. Excellent. Now before our first storyteller, Jonathan Harbin's brother, his real name was Jonathan, his brother's Razz, not his real name, helped me with many of these details. And so Jonathan James Harbin was born November 29th, 78 at Kaiser Hospital, Estacada. His father was Samuel Wesley Harbin from Pebble Beach, California, and his mother, Catherine Deal, was from Estacada. And Johnny's dad, Sam, was part Cherokee. Now, Johnny also believed that he was part coastal Siletz, at one point contacting the Siletz tribe to see if he could get his Native American status card and participate in tribal enrollment. But he never got a genealogy test, so we will never know what percentage Cherokee or Siletz he was. What we do know is Johnny was the youngest in his family, and his siblings are Lori Carskadon, Carey Razz Carskadon, Sara Harbin, and Delilah Harbin. Now, Johnny was a mischievous kid who was an entrepreneur at an early age who resold candy and slices of pizza at school as a side hustle. He claimed that school was easy for him, and he figured out how to crack the code, getting straight A's through his senior year of high school. He graduated valedictorian of Estacada High in 1996. However, they wouldn't let him publish his yearbook photo because it was too punk. The photo, which is in our slideshow, has a sneering young Johnster with a shaved head and a tattered American flag with burn holes in the background. Estacada High also didn't allow Johnny to give his valedictorian speech because they were afraid he would deliver too subversive of a message.
Yes.
Now, after graduation, Johnny was offered a scholarship from OHSU, but said fuck it and never went to college, instead pursuing a life of adventure, scambling, and rambling across the globe. Johnny's dad, Sam, gave him a van, and he used it to go to the beach with his friends and go surfing. He loved Devil's Punch Bowl and short sands. Johnny became close with his half-brother, Carey Razz Carskadon, in their early 20s, and they had plenty of misadventures, a few involving winning large sums of money gambling in Reno and Las Vegas. When Johnny was diagnosed with cancer 8 years ago, and we all know he showed such courage, strength, and resilience and grit, Razz shared a memory with me about Johnny recovering from his first round of chemo. They went to the casino together, winning $3,500, which boosted Johnny's spirits. Razz and Johnny would religiously pore through the book The Wizard of Odds and quiz each other on blackjack and poker strategies. Their highest take ever was around $18,000. Johnny met Tina around 2002 or 2003, and as we all know, the rest of their romance was beautiful punk rock history. We have a lot of special people who are going to speak tonight, and let's bring up our first storyteller, Kenton McDonald. He'll be followed by Tina, then Julia.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you all for being here. This is an amazing opportunity to talk about someone we all love very much. And my story is going to be about one of the first times I had a real bro down with Johnny. I was much younger at the time. I think I was 22. And I had grown up here seeing the Triggers play from age 14 or 15. And older people in the scene, you know, all of 6 years older than me, seemed ancient at the time. And as I connected with Johnny, he was just very cool to me. And I'm going to tell you this story. So, Johnny had probably offered this to anyone who feigned any interest in surfing for the last 10 years at that point. And I think I was the first person to actually hit him up and say, absolutely. Because we used to sit around and quote old skateboarding documentaries, Dogtown and Z-Boys, just the dumbest things you could think of that we loved. But I was interested when he told me, oh yeah, I used to surf a lot in my 20s. I said, let's go, anytime. So I took him up on that offer, and he turned in early from driving cab, and we met at the Blackwater practice space at about 9 p.m. I remember riding my bicycle, then him pulling up in his large blue van. Next thing you know, we're on the road, and I know we're somewhere, and my memory clicks back in, somewhere around McMinnville. And we're listening to the recordings for his upcoming 7-inch by the band Lunch, one of my favorite releases, and we talked about how great it was. And we talked about music and everything in between. And more importantly, we'd been drinking beer from the moment we left. There was a cooler between the two captain's chairs up front. So, shotgunning beers while driving. I don't condone, but you know, I do. And we decide we should probably pull into the casino. As we roll up to the Spirit Mountain Casino, we are chugging beers, crushing the cans, kicking them under the van. And we go in, and we gamble, and at the time, you know, money was, you know, precious to me. And it was never that precious to Johnny. So I hit the roulette table with my $60, $20 at a time, and I'm staying alive. And I'd take a break, and I'd go check up on Johnny at the blackjack table. And he'd look at me, and he'd say, dude, should I do it? Should I do kamikaze hand? And I'm like, I don't know what that is. He's like, max bet, $250. I'm like, please don't. And he does. And I remember distinctly, he's on the edge of his seat, he gets a queen, he's yes! And then an ace comes down. The guy gets it. He gets the ultimate payout. And I was impressed, but I was like more shocked than anything. He did it a few more times. They didn't all win. But we would take breaks, go out to the parking lot, and drink more beer, shotgun beers, kick cans under the van, and fill up our cups, our soda cups, and go back into the casino, and we had a good night. I think we were up till about 5 in the morning. And so we eventually get to his van, we pass out, he has some couch cushions, he's taking the back seats out of the van, and we sleep for all of 2 hours, and I wake up crazy hungover, actually still drunk, but I really wanted to go surfing. That was the plan. So I wake up Johnny, he's annoyed, I can tell that he could easily skip out on surfing altogether today. But I pushed him and he rallied. And we got up and we drove out into Lincoln City. We stopped and got coffee. And it was awesome. I mean, everything about it sucked, physically. But it was awesome. We ended up driving over to Devil's Punch Bowl, and we suited up. We walked down the stairs. We got to the water, and he looked to me, and he said, well, you've already seen Point Break, so I don't know what else I can tell you. I think we should just paddle out. Made complete sense to me. And we paddle out, and I'm getting my balance pretty easy for the first time, you know, being on a surfboard. I felt good about it. And Johnny's like, yeah, you're doing good. Turns and just takes off, and he's like 100 feet away from me. And next thing you know, I'm in a riptide, being carried out, fighting it, not knowing what to do, not really thinking straight, and just paddling and getting so exhausted and frightened and tired. And I eventually get close enough to the shore as I'm getting taken around the cape that I can kind of walk and touch bottom a little bit and get back to shore. And I'm rattled. And Johnny, and I'm yelling, Johnny! Johnny! He eventually sees what's happening and comes over. We get back to shore. And for me, it would have been a wrap if I'd been out there by myself. So he suggested, dude, just sit down. Sit down, it's scary, that sucks, man. What happened to you sucked. And he had a way of doing that. He could make light of something that seemed so terrifying or scary. And after he got done doing all the talking, he suggested we should probably go back out. And it seemed like the right thing to do. And I had an awesome day, which kickstarted a 3-4 year long love affair with surfing. Got my own board, got my own suit, would drive out on the weekends, but it all started in that moment. And it's just one of my fondest memories of the guy, and wanted to share it.
Sure. I'm nervous. Anyways, so I met Johnny in 2003, coming to Portland on tour with the Deadly Weapons, who Justin played in, and Erin over there. Erin, are you on your phone? Right there. Are you scrolling? Anyways, Larry, who was in the band, Larry from the Ricketts, he's like, we're staying at my friend Johnny's. I'm like, oh, cool, great, we have a place to stay. And we went to Shea What, and we had some food, and Johnny served us, and I was like, whoa, who's tall, dark, and handsome? So, I remember, after the show, he was like cook for us, what he does for bands, he takes care of bands, and the house was so clean for a bunch of guys. I was just like, wow, this is a cool guy, and he's so nice. And we stayed up and watched rock and roll videos, and it was great with all of us. And then we, just kind of had a nice time together and a connection, and we kind of kept in touch. And then he put out the Deadly Weapons record, and then, when he'd come to town, we'd hang out. So there was a friendship for a while, till a romance happened when we were both available, because for a time we were not. But we were tight friends and kept in touch, and when he'd come to town, we'd all hang out, and it was really great. And then, I remember he was like, my band's coming to town, and can you set up a show? And bands would stay at my house a lot, and then it happened. So then it was on. Then it was the traveling a lot, like coming up here. It was kind of hard at the beginning. I'm like, let's meet at the coast. You know, we would do a lot of like, we'd meet in Gold Beach, and it was like pretty romantic and fun, and like, you know, we would get wasted and hang out in a hotel room or like just hang out, and then we'd split up and we wouldn't see each other for like a month, and then it got to be like 3 weeks and then 2 weeks and then like a lot, and he would come down and stay with me and I would come here, and you know, it was like 7 years of long distance, so it was hard. And then, you know, we did a lot of traveling from afar, like making plans to meet in like Hawaii or whatever, and then Cyclops started. It's like, let's do this stupid band, and like, you know, I'll meet you at the End of Chemicals tour and we'll like play some shows and go on vacation, and it was really fun. I really feel fortunate that he was so adventurous. Like, he definitely he like pretty much forced me to step out of my box. He's like, no, just bring that small suitcase. And I was somebody who'd bring like a body bag, like touring with like outfits and like tons of stuff. And it was a small suitcase, which I still use for myself, but because he had to get his own eventually. But we would put all of our stuff for like a month in there, you know. So we'll do laundry or whatever. But like, he was always down to like adventure. And I know a bunch of you who have toured with him know that like, you always feel safe with Jonny. Like, even though he's like drinking beer and throwing glass bottles out of the van, or like, there's always alcohol involved, which at the time seemed like is fine. It's always safe. I never worried really, because I'm like, I just love him. He's just amazing. And like, I always trusted him. It felt safe. He's like somebody that you feel safe with. And it's hard to, I still felt safe with him, even like in his end times, you know, because he was around, and I just always felt safe with him. I don't know, what else do I have here? He was always so kind, and like when my mother passed, like we kind of just started seeing each other, and I called him at like 3 a.m. or 4, and I'm like, my mom died. He's like, I'm coming down right now. He just worked like 10 hours, and he just like got in the car and took care of me for the week. And you know, we were still kind of new, and it was just, he's very thoughtful, you know, really takes care of people that he loves, you know, which is super special about him. I don't know. I'm grateful for all of you for being here, and I'm so grateful for all of you people that have helped do benefits throughout his whole time, and you know, helped out so much. It's just a really great community here. I've never seen anything like it so much, and it really feels good, you know. And I feel Jonny with me all the time in this room. I feel like he's watching and he's happy, you know.
We love you, Tina.
I love you too.
Your Portland family now, baby.
I have some other funny stories, but maybe I'll wait till later. We'll see. Anyways, everybody, yay for Jonny. Be happy we're all here. And the memorial on the 24th is going to be like a big old bash. And he wouldn't want it any other way. He would want people to just like party. And you all that were at the death party, it was like people partied. So it'll probably be like even more, I think, and it's going to be great. So, thanks everybody, and I'll see you later.
I know all of Jonny's friends have amazing stories and memories with Jonny. Memories of performing, making, or enjoying music, great parties, or maybe traveling the world with him and Tina. We all have unique interactions and moments spent with him, and each one was special to us all. I didn't exactly share these similar types of experiences with Jonny, so I thought I might share what it was like being a little kid and growing up with Jonny. It's hard to explain our relationship to people because only a few could ever understand. He was like a father, but not really. He was like a big brother, but also not really. I do know that we were family, and my brother and I were the closest thing that Jonny ever had to children. He helped raise us in the most unconventional way. I was 10 years old when Jonny came into my life, and to say that I had never met anyone like him would be an understatement. Jonny taught and encouraged me to do a lot of things, mostly how to break the rules and to be a menace. But he always watched over me while I did and made sure I didn't die. I read the beautiful words that Justin wrote about Jonny, and when he mentioned Jonny loved thrifting and antiquing, it brought me back to the hundreds of times Jonny and my mom dragged me along to all of their thrifting quests. We were never allowed to pass a Goodwill or an antique shop without stopping. If Jonny would gift you one of these treasures from his endless hunts, he would be sure to attach a good tall tale along with it. One of the first times we went thrifting, I was about 13, and Jonny took us to the Goodwill bins here in Portland. He bent down to me and he whispered, "Hey kid, let me know if you see something you like." He was definitely up to something. Eventually I came to this big oil painting of an orange tropical sunset, and Jonny and I had shared our appreciation for tiki at the time, and he was helping me decorate my room in that style. I pointed the painting out to Jonny and he said, "All right kid, check this out." And in a smooth fashion, he nodded down to his hand and showed me a lower price sticker that he had plucked off of another item. And he whispered, "Never pay full price for this shit, kid." I watched astonishingly as he sailed through the checkout and pulled it off with ease. Jonny taught me how to drive my mom's minivan when I was 12 on the way home from a booze stop on a back road. He took me to my first underground punk rock house party where I met the Exploding Hearts playing in the basement. Soon after, he took me and my brother to our first punk rock show at the Paris Theater. We ended up in the middle of a riot outside of the show. It was the day that George Bush had declared war on Iraq. Jonny screamed, "Run!" and we ran from the riot police in the streets downtown, evading the smoke bombs and the riot trucks. Jonny made it on a news clip the next morning. He was jumping over some trash bags. My childhood echoes with the sound of his music, as of course a lot of people who knew him as the Portland punk rock legend Jonny Cat. There were a couple great albums recorded in our basement, although my memories are of Jonny, Razz, and Beebs playing the acoustic guitar and singing with one another on the couch or at the kitchen table. That's what comes to my mind when I think of his music. As I got older, Jonny taught me about being a sharp and opened my eyes to injustices and racism of the world, how to spot it, how to stand up to it, and how to fight it. Things I would later in life use to protect the family that I have now. He taught me about being an anti-fascist, and I found a little bit of irony in the day he chose to leave this world. When I got my first apartment at 17, me and my shitty ex-boyfriend were fighting, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't call my mom or dad. I called Jonny, and he came. When I had my firstborn daughter, he came to the hospital and tried to get me to smoke a cigar and drink champagne with him in the celebration and the likeness of the good old-fashioned Jonny way. And then he became Durandeu to June. When I bought my first home and I had no one to help me make it habitable, Jonny came. He worked all day and night tirelessly, painting the entire house with me and changing every crusty old fixture that needed replacing. And then he would ask, "What's next?" And when I was displaced by the Echo Mountain fire from that same home in 2020 and we were certain everything was burned to ashes, Jonny lifted my spirits and he supported me. And he told me he was proud of me. Jonny has held space for me and been non-judgmental of me while I've made mistakes and while I've learned my entire life. He had a rare and special gift of seeing straight through a person and understanding exactly who and what they were in that moment, good or bad. There have been times I felt like he understood me better than I understood myself. So Jonny, you were an incredibly unique and beautiful person and a true friend to many. And you left your mark on this world. And we'll all see you on the other side.
So our good friend Justin Schramer lost his voice, and so I'm going to read 2 poems he wrote for Jonny. And then we have Zach Brooks, Doug Burns, and Razz are on deck. This is the first poem. It's called Welcome to Bubble City by Justin Schramer. Jonny is too real for life, disobeys the laws of gravity, doesn't care about your social constructs. He makes his own reality, throws his trash on the street, chugs his SoCo while he drives with his knees. He just wants to ride the waves, burn some rubber, and feel the breeze. He walks in 2 worlds like a wild joker, has an inside joke with every friend that's a million laughs that now turn to tears in the end. Jonny now lives his real life in his bubble city without pain, without time or stress or fear, ripping shit up on the astral plane. A big black hole sits where he left us, but memories, the stories they weave, can only serve to connect us. Thank you. The second poem is The Legend of Jonny Cat Harbin by Justin Schramer. With the John Waters mustache and a scarred belly full of life, Jonny builds his own world, one leopard print vintage lamp at a time. A world full of treasures to be scored, grotesque, beautiful wonders to be explored. Long dark highways at midnight, filthy piss-stained alleyways, bright blue, green ocean waves, or pristine cold mountain peaks. A jungle of mutants, psychos, sickos, and freaks. You're all invited to live in his world, and he cannot comprehend how anyone would or could refuse him. Eating skipjack, snacky wax, making up bad raps all right, singing, someone's gonna get a smack tonight. Singing fake gay skinhead anthems, pirate shanties, and dumb biker club mantras. We wear pink boots and rainbow braces, stomping on your scrotums, stomping on your faces. Brothers, dudes, they don't run except at ya. Making up bullshit like fully kick, just to see how many people eat it up and spit it. Let's see who will be a wanker poser that's lame, or who will shotgun an ice cold frosty dog with Jage. Jonny says, you can do anything just by thinking about it. And you can say that is for real. What does that even mean? And stuff like, hi, my name is Justin, and I've packed my chili bagpipe so tight that I ripped my flatch hatch and started a filthy shat. Talking with his hands, eyes wide, and his laughter louder and prouder, telling wild tales and knowing you must think he's making it up. But the Johnster don't care, because you can't make that shit up. He's a tough boy, a punk, a real tough punk. He paid his dues, and you know he's got to play his guitar for you. Right after he rips one off from Guitar Center, that is. A no-class scambler, one fist in the air, and the other stuffing some expensive cheese down his pants.
Not that long ago.
Calling every sound guy Derek, and then stealing their mic stands while talking the promoter into giving his band a free case of beer. Partying with the rejects and making fun of the cool kid bands. Puking out of the driver's side window and then laughing and chugging some more of that sweet SoCo. Yes, he knows how gross that sounds. That's why he drinks it. pulling up to a late night drive-thru and ordering insane amounts of random junk food, then driving around eating, drinking, blasting the jabbers, and kicking trash out the van's side door at every stop. Laughing, always cackling the most deranged laugh, you had no choice but to crack up along with him. Life is fun. Life rules. The first person to call you when he hears the bad news. Always there when you need it. At your front door, ready to listen. Be honest and relate to your pain. Johnny keeps his arm around you with one eye on your back and one on the creeps. He loves his friends and is ready to throw down for them if he's gotta. Johnny is a bottle of peppermint schnapps. Funny, ridiculous, sometimes gets you loaded, sometimes makes you sick, but you'll forget the bad, no regrets, never any regrets, because it's always so sweet. Zach Brooks, Deb Burns, and Razz.
All right, I write better than I speak, so gotta read off the phone. And also, I know it's in bad form when someone is like telling a story about themselves at a eulogy, but just trust me, we got a theme, and we gotta get to the theme. So I'm gonna tell you about the first piss test show. It was 2012. Burger record shit was very, very popular. A lot of weak drums, bad guitar tones. So I don't really hold any grudges that some of our close friends were really dubious of a new like couple three-piece band, especially because Samantha had been playing the bass for about 2 months. But then we totally ripped it. We played for like 10 minutes. Rodrigo fucking kicks his drum kit over, and then we got off the stage. Samantha just like immediately, nervously goes outside and vomits. So while Samantha's vomiting, Jonny Cat comes up to me and he's like, "Damn, that was awesome. I must put out your 7-inch." And I was like, "Johnny, we just played our first ever show for like 10 minutes. He's like, "No, it's perfect. You gotta record as soon as possible because it's gotta sound exactly like that." So great. So he did. I mean, I kind of thought he was bluffing at the time. I don't know why, because that's not really something he would do. But it was like, yeah, is he really gonna do this? So of course, Jonny Cat puts out our first 7-inch, and then he puts out our first LP, and he convinced Mikkel to co-release it in Germany so that we could tour Europe, where we built all these lifelong friendships. And Samantha said this day, she's like, he gave us very high standards for how a record label should operate. And then that's how it comes back to Jonny Cat, and this is a theme I'm actually getting from everyone else, is that there's all these outrageous stories about him, but it's really like the endless love and support he showed all of his friends that are gonna haunt us, you know, like, he found the time to make all of us see the best in ourselves and build this community of fellow misfits. He's the first person we'd all fucking call if shit got real. Like, you might call your dad to help you with your taxes. If you just like ran over a bicyclist drunk, you're gonna be like, "Fuck, Jonny Cat, come on. I don't know what to do." Or if you're trying to cheat on your taxes, you might be like, "Jonny Cat, you help me cheat on my taxes." But anyway, so I have this theory he's not really gone. And this is not like a normal, like, he lives in our hearts. I have really seriously long suspected that Jonny Cat is not mortal. That he is like a lesser deity. Like maybe Dionysus fucked the deer lady on holiday to America. And he even has a song about how he's died 1,000 times. It's a Chemical song. He's like, "I have died 1,000 times." And you're like, "Oh, that's so funny, Johnny," but I really think that he has died 1,000 times. And that he is an immortal. And so the one thing that just has like kept me smiling this week, when I'm feeling pretty dark, is that I just have this like fantasy that he needed his powers somewhere else. That we have all gone totally square because we're old and boring, and we have learned all that we could from his literal genius. And that somewhere, some kid just got like beat up by the cops or fucked with by the Mike Aragon of wherever that kid lives, and this guy he pulls up, and it's like this person that this kid is like, "I've known this person my whole life, but I just met them, and we're the same age, but he seems 1,000 years older than me," and he's like, "Hey, looks like you could use a froster. You're all right, kid. You're all right. Get in the van." So I just want to give a huge shout out to every single one of us. This is not just for Johnny, because every fucking person in this room, we all got in the fucking van.
I'll get you. I'll get you.
It was gross then. It's still gross.
I've had worse.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, it's funny what Zach was just saying about the phone number or calling Johnny and Johnny being your first call, because like I'm sure I've said this to many people, but like Johnny's phone number was one of the few that I had memorized and have had memorized since I was, I don't know, 20. And for that reason, I'm like, there's gonna be a situation where I'm gonna need to know this number, you know, and I'm not alone. But I kind of figured there might be a lot of stories about, you know, debauchery and, you know, near-death experiences and wild times and drugs and stuff. So I thought it would be I kind of wanted to share just like more of a banal Jonny Cat story about running errands with Johnny and like what that looked like. And there was like one day that we're just running errands. I don't know what we were doing. It doesn't matter. And we're driving in his van and we're going down Broadway and we're stopped at the light in front of the Benson Hotel. And as soon as the light turns green, he turns his turn signal on, turns right, and I'm just like, hey Johnny, where are you going, man? And he's like, oh man, you know, I just want to do something real quick. And I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. And we go around the block, and he pulls up in front of the Benson, like right where, you know, people get out of their cars to go in the Benson, where the bellhops and everybody are standing. And this is in the middle of the day. And he's like, hey, Drug, can you just open the back doors for me real quick? I'm gonna do something real quick. I'm like, yeah, sure, man. So we get out of the van, and I like open up the back doors of the van. And as soon as I'm opening the second door, I look up, and here's Johnny, like, carrying this giant potted plant. Like, it had to weigh like 100 pounds. Just like waddling over to the van. And he's like, oh, thanks, Drug. You know, he puts it in the back. He's like, I got it from here. I'm like, cool, man. And so I just like go back to the front of the van and watch him then grab the other potted plant in front of the Benson and throw that in the back of the van and close the doors. And then we just sit there and wait for the light to turn green, and then we like drive off. And we're like maybe 3 or 4 blocks away, and I'm just like, hey Johnny, did you just steal those potted plants from the Benson? And he's like, oh, yeah, man, I just think they would look so nice in front of the wine shop. And I'm like, yeah, they would. He's like, and they're so expensive. And I'm like, they are, you know. And then we just proceeded to like then do the rest of our dumb errands, like go to the post office, which was another scam that he was running, but another story, I guess. But yeah, I think like the thing about that moment, and I think other people obviously have like spoken to this, was like how no matter what the situation was, like you always felt really safe with Johnny. And like, I'm the kind of person that I can't leave my parking like meter over 5 minutes without getting a ticket, you know? But then when I'm with Johnny, yeah, I'm like, we're stealing plants from the Benson in broad daylight. Nothing bad is gonna happen, because like Johnny would never let anything bad happen to you, you know? And that's just like a real theme that I feel like gets me and makes, you know, these stories awesome, but also hard, you know, is just the degree of which like he really protected everybody and then also pushed us to live outside of our comfort zone a bit as well. And yeah, so that's running errands with the Johnster. All right.
I've known Johnny a little bit longer than anybody here, so I've chosen to go with some maybe younger stories about Johnny that you guys didn't know, and a lot of it will probably tie into who he is and to what he's become. Johnny, when he was a little kid, and I know I've told some of you this stories in the last few days, but I was 9 years older than Johnny, and I would, when he was a little kid, 3 or 4 years old, I would bring records over that I had just bought. And I really remember this time I just bought The Game and Glass Houses. And he was just so like excited about it when I would play this music. And he always, he thought the lyrics were Another One Bites the Doctor. And he would run around singing Another One Bites the Doctor. And he's like, Johnny, what do you want to listen to now? And he'd go, Billy Joke. And he would get the zoomies and just like run around crazy, Billy Joke. So I would always bring new records whenever I came over for the next few years. But as he got older, he was a lot bigger than the other kids who were his age. And when he was in 6th grade, going to Estacada Middle School, the 8th graders would pick on him and bully him because he was as big as they were, but he was just a kid still, a couple years younger, and they knew they could pick on him and not get beat up. And he went home to his dad, Sam, and he would say, man, these guys are picking on me, man. This guy just hit me in the stomach for no reason at all. And they, like, every day it's the same thing. And Sam goes, you know what? Johnny, you're big, man. You're big for your age. You're like a superhero. And Johnny goes, yeah? And he goes, yeah. Just go hit. Just next time one of those guys messes with you, just hit him in the nose as hard as you can. Just give him everything you got. And he, the next day in school, sure enough, got picked on and just absolutely knocked this dude out. And the other one who was his partner, who used to always pick on him, just took off and ran. And like people were like cheering. And like nobody ever messed with him again. And he always after that, if anybody was getting bullied or picked on, he was the guy who like came in and said, hey, you guys better back off right now. Any kid who was getting picked on, bullied, anything. And he had that kind of attitude, and it was just, and he carried that through life. If you were his friend, he'd have your back. Oh, almost forgot. When he was in probably the 2nd or 3rd grade, he got invited to a vacation Bible school by a friend of his, right? And he said, okay, I'll go. And he went there, and during the day there, they had arts day where they painted these plates for their mom, and it was supposed to be like, you know, something to do with God and, you know, their mom and, you know, whatever. And this lady comes up and he's painting his plate, and she's like, well, that doesn't have anything to do with God and your mom. And he goes, well, I don't think my mom likes God that much. Just closing out, I've never had so many people say, God, when, you know, the thing I remember most about your brother is I moved to Portland, I didn't know anybody. And I met Johnny, and he just invited me in. I was instantly his friend, and I knew somebody, and he always took care of me, and we were friends through all these years. So thank you, everybody.
right, we got the next three, Colin, Stitch, and Samantha.
Thanks, man. So when 2006, Johnny roadied for the Clorox girls on a tour, and it started in Portland, and we were going to Mexico City, and then flying to Brazil. And so Johnny was just going to come with us down to Mexico City and then drive back. So we picked him up in Oakland when he was staying with his best friend Larry and Beth, and he was like, the funniest thing just happened. And I was like, what? He's like, Larry just said the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life. I'm like, what? And so he does his Larry impression. He's like, hey, Justin, or hey, Johnny. He's like, the kids around Oakland have a new style of music. He's like, oh yeah? He's like, yeah, it's called rap music. It's like a version of rap music, but they go, brap, brap, oh what, oh what? And it's kind of imitating the sounds of gunshot and police sirens. Brap, brap, oh what, oh what, brap. And Johnny's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And so like right after that, he got in the van. And so like anytime there was a silence on that first trip, he was like, brap, brap, ooh, ooh. And then like about 2 hours in, he was sitting in front and Justin was next to him. And he's like, I got a fucking game. And I was like, okay. And he's like, okay, Justin, I go whap, and you go scrap, and then I go biggity brap, and then you do whap, and then I go scrap, and you do biggity brap. And I remember being like, I am so jealous of Justin. This is the sickest game. I want to do it so bad. So like, him and Justin go for a long time, and then I was like, hey, John, whap. And then like, we just did it like fucking constantly on that whole trip, annoying everybody, but having the best time. So we don't book a lot of the shows. We're trying to like book them from the road, and so we decided to fly from Tijuana to Mexico City. And Johnny at first is like, don't do it, man. You should drive. And we're like, I hear you, but it doesn't really like make sense for us like financially and time-wise. And he's like, yeah, but it's so fucking beautiful, man. Just drive. And we're like, nah, man. Like, we're the band. Like, thank you, but like, we'll buy your plane ticket or something. He's like, I'll buy a ticket, but I won't buy a ticket. Just fucking drive. I'll just meet you there. And we're like, what are you talking about? Like, you're missing the whole thing. And he was like, I'm really fucking nervous to fly, and I really don't want to do it. And we were like, fuck. I think we're just gonna do it. I'm really sorry. And he was like, okay, man. So we get on the plane, and he was someone I'd hung out with a million times, but I'd never seen him nervous. And I looked back at him from where I was, and his knuckles were just white. He was just so nervous. And he was like, the only thing is I get to get off in between on like the layover. I'm just thinking about that. So the layover, he's not allowed to get off, and he's like so upset. And we finally get going again, and I turn around and I go, hey, Johnny. Whap! And he goes, not right now, dude. I was like, fuck. And Johnny will do the game. So I'm just like worried about him, and every time I look back, I feel like I'm making him more uncomfortable. So we land in Mexico City, and about like 2 minutes after we land, like we've taxied to the runway, and I hear, hey, Colin. I turn around and he goes, whap. Thank you very much.
Samantha. She's not ready.
Richie's not ready. All right. Johnny's the person we would call for like literally everything, right? Like, hey, I can't get in my car. I don't know what happened. How long can I leave my car here? Can you help me cut this lock? I'm totally fucked. And then right before New Year's, I was like, I need a steak. Desperately. So Johnny will know what I should do. And I asked him, what do you think is the best steak restaurant in Oregon? Thinking, I need this answer because I'm gonna go there someday, right? He recommended this place 4.5 hours away. Let's go. But he said, obviously Laurelhurst, El Gacho, probably something like that, but the best place around is to an entire YouTube video of this place that's 4 hours away. And I was like, whoa. He said, super fun. But then he taught me to do it myself. He's like, honestly, Providore has a meat shop called Revel, and you can buy a steak there if you just cook it correctly. That's probably the best steak you're gonna get. I mean, it doesn't hurt to be knowledgeable about steak and everything. Also, of course, resting it and cutting it correctly. I like cooking steaks more than going out, but I know you can get a very good one. Sorry, I meant it's easy to get a very good one. I don't know how to cook it. I'm nervous about fucking it up. It's easy. You're gonna cook it on a pan? I think that's the way to do it. Lots of butter in there and some herbs, get it really hot. Throw the meat down without burning it. Take it off the heat. Take a probe, look at it, and what temperature it is. You don't wanna go over 110 degrees. Throw it in a cold pan, put it in the oven, scoop butter and herbs on it, at 250 degrees until 110 to 112 degrees. Pull it out and rest it on a cutting board for 10 to 15 minutes. Slice it against the grain. Try the hanger steak or something cheaper that's thinner and you won't fuck it up the first time. Or go with something really thick or it's easy to get away with, and just make sure you keep an eye on that thermometer. Don't overcook it. What herbs? Why do some people put Coca-Cola on it? I don't know shit about cooking steak, right? Whatever you like, usually rosemary or sage, stuff like that, but nothing too flimsy. Use good butter, nice salted butter. Finished with flaky salt and ground pepper at the end. I say don't season anything before that. Roast some potatoes and smash them, cover them with olive oil, and get them kind of crispy with garlic and some herbs. Nice to have a veg on hand. I'm big into broccolini. Oh, potatoes sound so good. What about marinating? No way, just butter and herbs? No marinating. I say don't put anything on the meat and just cook it, not a little salt and pepper at the end. Flaky sea salt. We went on and on about the pan. Should the pan be hot? What the fuck do I do? We texted about this for 2 fucking hours. And he sent a YouTube video that had different instructions than the ones that he texted me. But overall, I was like, wait, hold on. Is this supposed to be unrefrigerated before cooking? Yeah, bring it up to room temp. And I'm like, okay, do you have a meat thermometer? Yeah, Zach has one for home brewing and cheese making. Okay, that's awesome. You have to send me a picture and let me know how it turned out. The joy of cooking a good steak is something amazing, and you don't need to go out to restaurants and waste money. You can just get a better piece of meat. It smells insanely good, status update. Beautiful, you gotta show me how it turned out. So I sent him a pic, it was cut up how he said. Then he's like, yeah, girl, get that butter on there. I was like, okay, cool. So I put the juice on it. He's like, a few flakes of sea salt, just like coaching through the whole thing, And sent him the pic of the updated with the butter. He said, looks pretty perfect, well done. Kind of like what he would say about anything we did. Looks perfect, well done, so sweet. Gonna miss him. Ready, Richie?
Well, I'm just gonna drink this and get off this list.
Tina said don't put your lips on it.
Why not?
Especially you.
Did you put your lips on it?
That's what she said.
Just the tip.
So good. So I don't have any, I'm not eloquent and stuff like that. I'm not funny about stuff, but I'm just gonna tell some stupid stories that Johnny did.
Yeah.
Woo! The one that comes to mind right now, I'm thinking about it, was we had a bachelor party for Doug, and I got this cabin out in, it was Mount Hood or something like that. There were a bunch of us there. When we get to the house and we get all set up and everything, we're all kicking it and everything, and eventually I realized that there's a community here. There's other families and shit, normies. And there's a pool, so all of us, this group of punks, just all walk to this pool. And there's all this, you can see us walking up and this, these families just bummed out that they see us. Fast forward all of that. At one point, Kenton and Johnny decide, everybody's just covered in tattoos and all their stupid bullshit they're wearing. And Johnny and Kenton decide to start surfing each other in the pool. And they're both giant people. And they're like taking turns, like maybe I could surf him. And all it is Kenton on top of Johnny, and Johnny's getting crushed down to the bottom of the pool. And then they trade to see if it works out this time. And we're all cracking up, and everybody just looks bummed out. It's hilarious. What are some other things? I wrote down some stuff here, but once when we were, Tina, where did we stay? I feel like it was like in Spain somewhere. It was like a death drive, like through the night to get to like the next town. And this is not a PC story, but I don't really give a shit because he's dead now, and fuck you. So, but that whole tour, he was blacking his eyes out, and he had a mohawk, and he just looked crazy the whole time. It was him at his like peak performance in the Chemicals, just running wild. But at one point, we get to this fucking hotel. He pays for the whole thing for everybody. It's like crazy 70s, weird Star Wars posh kind of aesthetic. And we're there, and I fall asleep in the room with like Ryan and Jeff. And Tina and Johnny have their own room, of course. It's like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and somebody starts banging on the door, and I'm like I wake up on the couch, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? And he keeps banging, and I open the door up, and it's Johnny, and he's in his fucking underwear, and he's in blackface. I'm sorry, he wasn't doing, it's like, the pictures leading up to it are him and Tina in the bathroom, and he's like drawing shit on his face, like crazy eyebrows, and then blacking his eyes out, and he's just naked, and he just kicks open the door just to like bother me like that. Like, he's in his undies, and I'm like, dude, what are you doing right now? And he's like, what are you talking about, man? I'm like, what's the problem? I'm like, that's not cool, dude. It's not cool. Like, what? He's like, Stitch, what are you talking about? Just like sitting down next to me, he's naked. I'm like, dude, this is crazy. It also leads me to like, that same tour, we were in Trento, in Italy. The first time I went to Italy, that was cool. Thank you, Johnny. And it's like 3 in the fucking morning again, and I'm asleep. And he wakes me up with a bottle of fucking peppermint schnapps or whatever the fuck it was, I can't remember. And he's like, baby bird, I'm laying in my sleeping bag. I'm in my sleeping bag on my back, and I just hear him go, Stitch, Stitch, Stitch. And I'm like, dude, Johnny, it's like 3, what's up, dude? And I just feel the bottle like hit my lips, and he just is saying baby bird. And I'm like going, dude, and he goes, no, baby bird, baby bird, baby bird, baby bird. You would do that shit all the time. And you hated it, but then you're like, damn it, this is great. You have to be up at 8 o'clock to like do like another 7 or 8 hour drive. Just shit like that. Like that's all I can think about. This is a cool thing. Everybody always talks about how protective he was. So I was in the Chemicals in the beginning in like 2007, 2008, and we did like a record and some 7 inches and shit. And it was basically, I know that band predates what Doug and Daniel and I did, because Schramer and Colin, you guys did stuff with him. There's like a 7-inch and everything that I love. And there's Chemical songs on that Black Rebel 7-inch too, which is cool. But to get the band rolling live-wise, it was kind of, as far as I know, it was like Doug's idea to just kind of be like, let's just back Johnny so we can just play the music, and then he can just write the most insane, crazy lyrics ever. And it's just the Jonny Cat show, you know, which we all love so much, of course. But, and it was, a lot of that was Justin, like, being like, okay, when I first met Justin, he was like, they were on tour, and he was just like, we're gonna start this band with Jonny Cat, and you're gonna play drums. And back then, of course, that's my whole life, like, you're gonna play drums. I'm like, okay, I'll play drums in this band too. Where was I going with that, though? Oh, I quit Chemicals once, but then they did it, Mary joined, and then they did a tour with her in Europe. And I'm like, I want to go, though. Can I go too, then? Even though I'm not in the fucking band? They're like, of course you can. It's stupid. Get in here. And I'm like, okay, fine. And there was one show we played in Bologna, and no one was there. Not even the promoter. It was like 2 of his friends. I swear to God, that was it. And we were like, well, fuck it. This is like band practice. And I like sung a bunch of songs because there was no merch to sell or anything like that. It was great. But then we went back to the hotel, and there was 2 rooms there, and there was like a death metal band from Mexico.
Yeah.
And pretty cool. They seemed like chill guys. There were some snacks and stuff. They had already eaten all of it and drank all the beer. And then Mary was kind of freaked out. She was like, I don't know these guys. I'm out of town. I'm just kind of feeling like I'm unsafe, you know. And the room that we stayed in was just like a hard linoleum floor, nowhere to, like nothing. And we just laid in there. And I don't remember what Jonny Cat fell asleep on, but in my mind it's like a beanbag chair or like a pile of blankets or just a pile of our shit, like our backpacks. But he's so protective. It was a long walk to get to this. He's so protective that Mary fell asleep, like, this is Johnny, like falling asleep, and he's holding Mary as if like her back is to him, right? The whole night. That's what he did for Mary. Like, I just remember that. I'm just like, and they did that like a couple of times, you know? Anyway, what are some other good ones? Yeah, lights on, that's good. Anyway, I love everybody here, and I'm just stoked that we all got to know him so much, because he empowered all of us. And you know, we all grew up like feeling like misfits, probably in our own kind of ways. I really do in my own way. And Johnny never made me feel like that. He always like met me wherever I was, even if I was like doing something he didn't like, or I was like pulling away from him. I wasn't like, you know, on his trip, or I wouldn't pick up the phone or something like that. He always met me where I was, and I try to do that with everybody else like in the world, and that's a big deal. And anyway, blah blah blah. I'll see you guys on the 24th. It'll be fun. Let's do it.
So now we're going to do a 15-minute break so everybody can go to the bathroom. Then we got 8 more storytellers, and there's 2 slots left. So if anybody wants to sign up, there's 2 more slots. So let's take a 15, and see you in a minute. Hit a DJ band. 2001, I was 18 years old, and I had gotten in trouble because my high school punk band called Maurice's Little Bastards used to drink a bunch of Gilby's vodka, dive on the crowd naked, and I had charges pressed against me, and so I was very good, streaking. I like how I get heckled with streaking. Streaking! And so anyhow, I'm staying at a friend's parents' house awaiting this trial in 2001, and the phone rings and it's Johnny. And he sounds very upset, and I'm not sure if he's in jail or at home. And he goes, "It's Johnny's last supper, man. It's Johnny's last supper." And he sounded pretty upset, and I was like, "Well, what's wrong? You know, what's happening?" And he's like, "I fucking wrapped my van around a tree. The cops came up to the van, and I came to, and I see him, and he's got the flashlight in my face and shit. And the cop's like, 'Do you have anything in the vehicle we should know about, like weapons or drugs?' And I go, 'No, officer.' And so then the cop searches his van, and he finds like a cache of weapons. Like, like if he was in the movie The Warriors, or if Johnny was in like Genghis Khan's army, like underneath every crevice, the cop had found brass knuckles, a switchblade, like a freaking like Derringer pistol. He found a baseball bat that had nails hammered through it, and he had found a medieval mace at a garage sale or something. And if you don't know what a mace is, it's like a steel ball with spikes on it and a chain that you swing around a stick. And so the cop, you know, I have no weapons, officer. And he's like, "Can you put your hands behind your head?" So he takes Johnny to jail, and then Johnny calls me, and I'm thinking, why is Johnny using his one phone call to call me, an 18-year-old kid, and not a lawyer? But the reason why he was calling me is because he was worried about his records. And he's like, he had the Jonny Cat records, whatever was out at that time, in the back of the van, which had been impounded. And then he had his record collection. So he's like, "You gotta promise me you'll take care of my records." So I said, "Okay, you know, whatever." And I hung up the phone. And so then I found out later on when I saw Johnny, and I was like, "What happened?" He's like, "Well, it's no big deal, you know." And I'm like, "Well, what happened?" He's like, so it turned out he was a used car salesman at the time. And from what Johnny told me, you know, fact or fiction is always very blurry. But according to him, he had sold the judge a used car. And so when he went into the courthouse, the judge recognized him and was like, "Hey, Johnny, how's it going? Oh, good to see you, man." And Johnny's like, "Hey, how's that Oldsmobile running?" And then he was like, "Oh, it's running great, Johnny." He's like, "You know what? You seem like a real good guy. What is this? What is this? You know what? Just next time, have your friends drive you home if you've had a couple drinks. Case dismissed. So only Johnny could get away with, crime with passion like that. We have on deck, it was Ian, I believe, and then Candy. We have Ian. Is Ian ready, or we got Candy?
Ian's coming
All right.
Score. Ian was born ready.
Score.
You want mic stand or no mic stand?
Let's do mic stand.
All right.
Thank you. So I thought I was gonna be like the guy who talks about John, like the soft side of John. Everyone else is gonna be like, oh, the Johnster, wild, party animal, good time, maniac, the good-hearted outlaw. And I fucking love that shit about him, but I just wanted to talk about his sweet side. And that's how I fell in love with him as a friend. And around that time that I fell in love with him, we were at his place and we're drinking beers, icy cold frosters, of course. And I don't know how many deep we were, but at some point I was like, fuck, I gotta go. It's my anniversary. And he was like, oh, dude, what do you got planned? What'd you get for her? And I was like, I got nothing. And he's like, Scorp, I got you. At that time it wasn't Scorp, it was Machine. What'd you get? And I was like, yeah, nothing. And he's like, all right, I got you, dude. And so he goes outside, or first he's like, she like flowers? And I was like, of course she likes flowers. He goes outside and he starts cutting up his own flowers from his yard. It's like one by one, meticulously choosing the flowers and cutting them just right. The guy knew flowers. He knew a lot of random shit. And I'm just watching him and appreciating him. And 45 minutes later, he has the most beautiful fucking goddamn bouquet I've ever seen. And he's like, she like wine? I'm like, yeah, of course she likes wine. And he's like, I got just the bottle for the occasion. Fucking hands me a bottle of wine, and that's just the kind of guy he was, and that's the kind of friend he was. He would, do everything for the people that he loved, and I would have done anything for him. I fucking love him, and I'll miss him, and fuck that
I remember that.
Oh, God, so heavy. My stories just kind of echoes what everyone else is saying, and I've been on many tours with Johnny and, had a lot of good and bad experiences. And, was that Johnny's? Well, I'm sure. Anyways, this story is just, what comes to my mind when I think of Johnny is on a Triggers tour. We had gone to Montana. I can't remember where else we went. Justin would be helping me, but he doesn't have a voice. I think it was Montana, which anyone that's been there, the drive is fucking insane. You go through all these mountains, and if it's spring or fall or winter, then the weather's going to be bad and icy and lots of snow. Anyways, we were in Montana for a few days and just got wasted the whole time. And, Johnny always needed to drive. He didn't want anyone else to drive ever. And if he did, then you would know that he had just pushed himself too far and was ready for someone else to do it. But we had left Montana, and I was asleep in the van. I think everyone was, except for Johnny, who was driving. And there was like a jerk in the van or something. And I woke up totally like still drunk. It was dark out and I'm in the back and I kind of peek around, make sure Johnny's still awake. And he's like, you know, got his hat down like this, driving. I think he might have had his sunglasses on. And drinking a beer, like, you know, nothing else. It was like 4 a.m. or something, and I think there was ice or snow. Anyways, I was like, Johnny, you're fucking drinking and driving? He's like, oh, hey, what's up? Like no one had talked to him in hours or something. And I was like, what are you doing, dude? Look outside, it's crazy. He's like, oh. And here goes Johnny, like just ready to push my buttons. He's like, oh, you mean this? And he puts his finger on the steering wheel and is turning around looking, be like, oh, what, that? You know, drinking. I was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, anyone that knows me knows that I've got to be the one in the driver's seat. I don't trust anyone else. And then he started fucking putting his knees on, you know, driving with his knees. Like, oh, that's drinking, throwing his beer can. Anyways, moral of the story is, you know, I always wanted to be the driver. It was hard for me to trust people, but he just kind of made you feel safe and loved. You know, if you did something that he didn't like, he would definitely push your buttons and, you know, see how far he could get with you. And it was endearing. I just miss him. I'm sad he's gone. But the stories everyone's telling, really helping. And then Justin reminded me of a funny story. I think that tour, maybe a different one. We had gone to Las Vegas. I had never been there, and you know, I have fucking ADD and all the lights and shit are just too much for me. I was trying to figure out like how to do Las Vegas, be in a casino. Everyone else is gambling. And everyone like at one point was like, where the fuck is Johnny? Why isn't he here gambling? And he's like, hey guys, look. And he comes walking up with his arms like this, full of fucking like cup of soups to go. Like, just full. There were like 5, and he had like, you know, a basket with fries in it or something. He's like, dudes, at the other bar over there, like right in front of the bartender, there's free food. All this rad shit. Go get some, it's free. You know, being on tour, you don't eat that great, so fucking free clam chowder is like score. Anyways, thanks everyone for sharing. It's good. Love you all.
Now there's a name on here which I can't read very well. Christy or Chris Yum or Kristen. Welcome.
Thank you.
And that's followed by Eric I or Eric the First. And then Newton.
Thanks, Justin. So this story is, I think, hopefully very short. And it's maybe more of a little bit of a roast of Kenton than anything else here. But, all right! Gets to the heart of what I love about Jonny Cat and friendship. So, we're on this motorcycle ride. Kenton, Bobby's back there somewhere, and a few others. And we're out for a few nights, and Kenton has this really nice, like, pre-packaged food bags. And it's pulled pork. And after like night, we're like, where did you get this like awesome pulled pork? And oh, Jonny Cat made it for me. Oh, that's really sweet of Jonny Cat to prepare this food for you. We're eating like, I don't know, chili or other things, and usually Kenton would show up with like Chef Boyardee. That's one of his trips. Jonny Cat was taking care of Kenton on this ride. I wanted to make sure he ate well. And we didn't think anything else of it. Weeks later, whenever I saw Jonny Cat next, he says, "How'd you like that pulled pork?" Well, I mean, it looked good, but Kenton ate it. It was his food. No, that was for all of you. You didn't eat it? No, Kenton wasn't sharing. Well, that's cool. Sorry you didn't get to eat it. It was really fucking killer. I mean, it looked killer and it smelled killer. So I believe you, Jonny Cat. It was killer. Yeah, it's just he was trying to take care of well, all of us, but he really took care of Kenton. And that's the story.
It was cool. It was actually cool.
Okay, so I'm going to tell a Jonny Cat story that happened today. I was working at the record store, and these two young punk kids came in, and they were shopping around, and then they talked to me, and they came up and they said, "Hey, really sorry to hear Jonny Cat passed away, you know?" And I said, "Oh, you guys knew Jonny Cat?" And they said, "Well, no, but we've heard about him, you know." And I said, "Oh, cool. Well, what did you hear about him?" And they said, "Well, wasn't he was in the Wipers, right?" And I said, "Yeah. He was in the Wipers."
Correct.
And I was just floored by it. Went on for a little while with them, and I was thinking about it. You know, I was kind of pumping them for whatever I could glean that they heard about Jonny Cat. And then I was trying to think, how do I know Jonny Cat? When did I first meet Jonny Cat? You know, I honestly couldn't remember. And then I realized I couldn't remember because Jonny Cat first was introduced to me as a concept or a legend, a folk legend, like you were saying, like a Sasquatch or whatever you want to call him. And I remember hearing stories about him long before I ever met him. And what a wonderful introduction. And when I finally met the man, I was a little bit in awe. It was like meeting a celebrity. I mean, he was a celebrity in my world. And I was just thinking about these kids and the continuum of how wonderful it was that he was living on in that way too. I mean, he lives in all your guys' hearts with these personal, beautiful stories, and you know, the safety he provided for us all, and the sweetness and the kindness. And for me, he definitely lives on and just encouraging me in everything I ever did, and just being enthusiastic in a way that not a lot of people are, and really moved me that way. But then there's these kids that didn't even know who the fuck he was, and they're like already telling tall tales about him, and it's just gonna get weirder. And you're gonna hear some weird shit over the next 50 years about Jonny Cat, and I'm looking forward to it. And thank you all for sharing the stories about him. It's been really great. So thanks.
All right, back.
While he does that, you made me think of something about Jonny. On the last tour that he did in Europe, every time like a song would end, like we were on stage, he would be like, "We are the Bended Toaded." Thank you, we are Tragedy. We are the Wipers, thank you. You're like, okay, that's not getting funny anymore. This is stupid. I had a drink finally. I just want to play, like,
You're not gonna play a song from a microphone, are you, bitch?
Hey, motherfuck. I need a favor from you. Yeah, I need a favor from you. Yeah, I do. I need a favor from you this week, motherfucker. I need a favor from you this week.
You got one more.
You better watch your back, motherfucker. Motherfucker.
Just compelled.
Hey!
through Justin, and there's a couple of stories that I wanted to talk about. I guess the first one, really quick, is separate. It's when Johnny was having a yard sale. He was going to go over to Baltimore for the first time, and I showed up there, and I was looking at his stuff, and I was like, oh, cool. And he's like, hey, check this out. Do you have a copy of this? And he was pulling out his records, his Jonny Cat records, and I was like, oh, no, I don't. And I was thinking I was going to give him some money. He's like, no, just take it. And then I was explaining to him, because he's such a nice, fucking generous guy, always, like always. We were talking about how my wife was going through cancer treatment, and he was already like 3 years into it, and he's like, I got something for you, and to Nikki, and he ran in the house, and he came back a couple minutes later, and he had this bowl of this jar, it was
Rick Simpson?
I think it was, but there was a piece of tape on the top of it, and it said claw hammer. And he had mentioned specifically that you only want to have 1 or 2 drops because then you're clear. You're over the mountain. But if you take more than that, you're going to end up going through the mountain, and you don't really want to do that. And then another one that I thought was pretty great was he was playing a show at a bar. I don't even remember what bar it was, but the Chemicals were playing, and I saw somebody from the bar walk by, and they were complaining that somebody was putting stickers up everywhere. It's funny, these stickers. And then Jonny Cat, right in front of me, was like, hey, check this out. And he flips one up on the top of the beam, like right behind the guy. I think the best story that I have though is there was a show at Sabala's Slab Town, and it just got over with, and the Rough Kids were playing, and Johnny was driving cab, and he gave some dude a ride to where he was staying, and he had mentioned that the squad, and it's the last night they're gonna be there. They're all gonna get evicted. So we should have a show there. We should bring the party over there. So the problem was that they didn't have enough equipment, and so Johnny's like, well, that's cool. I got a cabinet. So he got Justin and I into the van, and I just remember like the fact that we were driving down I-5 as he's drinking beer at like 75 miles an hour as he's talking to Justin with his fucking hands, and I'm sitting on the couch that does not have a seatbelt in the middle of the back of the fucking van. And I was just thinking, I don't even fucking care. This is amazing. Such a fucking good time with Jonny Cat. So we get to his house, and he invites us in, and he gives us a little tour of his room where he's got random weapons hanging on the wall, and this gigantic fucking jar of weed that's like, and we were talking about the weapons, and Justin and I were kind of laughing about it, and he's like, check this out. And he reaches into his jacket pocket, and he pulls out this Derringer, and he holds it up to Justin's head. And he said, Cabby's best friend, man. And Justin's like, stop pointing this thing at me. And Johnny's like, it's cool, man. There's a cork in it. It's fucking brilliant. That guy, I don't know. Do you have any other details that you remember from that? It was such a bizarre and amazing night.
There was only one thing, and it was sort of the next day. I wasn't feeling so hot, and Johnny drove me to the airport, and I was pretty hungover, and he would have these cures that were just simplistic, like he's like, just drink a Bobbyteens. So he just gave me a Bobbyteens, and I'm drinking the Bobbyteens. He's like, here, take some mushrooms. You're gonna need these. So he put a bunch of mushrooms in the inside pocket of my jacket, and a bunch of joints. Like he just had a bunch of joints and mushrooms. And so like, I had a couple of Bobbyteens and was feeling a little bit better. Art Santana was there. I think Newton was there. It was that picture where I have stains on the cowboy hat that I'm wearing, and I did not remember why it's like a pink-colored cowboy hat. And so I get to PDX Airport, and I'm walking through security, and they're like, next, and then I'm like, what is in my pocket? And I was like, I was so hungover that I was like, I'm gonna go to jail. I don't even care, I was like, I just took off the jacket and I put it through the X-ray machine, and just walked through, and they didn't say anything. I just put on my jacket and just got on the plane and flew away. It was like the blessing of Johnny. He'd get you out of trouble, but he could also get you into trouble, but then as you're getting into trouble, he gets you out of trouble again. So that's what I remember. On deck, we have Lisa, Erin Yanke, Sara White, and Billy.
Lost a tooth during college because of that stuff. Anyway, that doesn't feel comfortable. All right, so my story, that's going to take longer than this, but it was a dark and non-stormy night, and I was on a weird little island in Mexico, and out of nowhere, I get this text from Jonny Cat, and it's, oh, wait, I should introduce myself. Hi, I'm Lisa Waters. Hi. This becomes relevant in a second. So I get this text from Jonny Cat. I'm on this, like, janky hot tub of a roof of a janky hotel, which is supposed to be nice, and it's overlooking a graveyard, because of course. So I get this random text from Jonny Cat, and it said, you know, I've been listening to John Prine lately, and the song Lake Marie makes me think of you all the time. And I'm like, okay, how so? And he's like, because John Prine says, oh, I'm standing by peaceful waters, and every single time I hear, oh, I'm standing by Lisa Waters, and I'm like, oh shit. I think it's a testament to how, like, special he made us all feel, and that's all I have to say.
There's a medley, I've told a couple of you, of Jonny Cat stories, so it's like, oh, You May Be Right, I May Be Crazy was the karaoke at Shea What, that was the song. Like, this song is great. I didn't know before they would karaoke it all the time. We all got on the bus, I love that story, thank you. But Johnny was Johnny even for people who didn't, which is a little slice that I can share. You know, we'd hang out Slaptown all the time, and he came in once. He had just had this ferry, picked up this woman from the airport and drove her to Beaverton, I think. And she got in the cab and was like, oh, I just went to Vegas with my best friend, and we had this great, like, romance, and it was really awesome. And then he came back, and then his girlfriend picked him up, and he's like, see you later. And she was just, like, distraught in the cab, and Johnny just, like, starts. He's like, fuck that loser. Fuck no, don't. Oh, you're like, I'm gonna call him. Don't you fucking call him. No fucking way. Piece of shit. Let's go beat him up. You're better than that. Fuck. No way. You get your shit together. Blah, blah, blah. It just pounded it into her head from the airport to Beaverton. And then he came back to Slabtown and told me about it, and was just like, oh my God, that's amazing. And he, you know, she had some kind of like, you changed my life thing, and he's like, yeah, whatever, like, this is what I do. I'm magical Johnny the cabbie, and I just go around and give my magic to everyone that needs it, and it was beautiful. So that's my Johnny story. Also, I am collecting photos for February 24th, so if you have any, which I know you all do, and they all look like this. So We need to start posing better in our photos because I take boring ass photos. And I'm going to step it up. That's my commitment to bringing my Johnny in, but I want you all to do it too. But if you have them, do it for Johnny. I'll give you my phone number. You can text them to me.
Once again, I don't think that I, have a really unique tale to tell, like some crazy thing that happened. But I got kind of inspired by everybody else coming up, and I just wanted to say a few words. I'm gonna get real emotional. I'm a crier, y'all. Okay. Well, let me tell you what. When my mama passed away, who do you call?
Johnny.
Right. Call Johnny. And at one point, I think I told Tina about this already, but I was crying and I said, "Oh man, I'm sorry. I was blubbering, it wasn't even making any sense." And he was like, "No, dude, you gotta cry. It's okay." And even though you know that, it just felt really good to have somebody say that and have that kind of support. But yeah, I think about the day I met Johnny. Actually, there was a number of photos that came up in the slideshow that I took. It was the day I met Johnny. A lot of my friends, and some of them dear, dear friends, I don't remember the day I met him. I don't remember. I don't know, maybe we were drunk, whatever, meeting a lot of people all at the same time. I don't remember the day I met Johnny. My friend Toby called me up, said, "Dude, I'm doing this band with my friend Johnny. It's so awesome. We're called the Black Rebels. We got a zine. It's so awesome. Will you come and take photos of us?" I was a photographer, was into it. And I was like, "Fuck yeah, dude." Met up. Johnny pulls up in the van. I got in the van. And just proceeded to have the funnest day of my fucking life. And again, to echo what a lot of other people are saying, I felt like the moment I met Johnny, I felt like I knew him. I felt like I already knew this guy. I felt like I'd known him my whole life. It was so natural. I never met somebody more funny, dude. Jesus. That fucker had me rolling all day long. He made the experience so much fun. And I'm so thankful that I have these photographs that I can look at and remind me of that day. And I say, that's the day that I met Johnny. And I cherish it. And it really started a whole thing for me. Taking photos of bands and going out to shows and doing all that stuff, getting my photos. He was one of the first people to use one of my photos on a record, dude.
Yeah.
All right, that Black Rebel 7-inch, the split with the Nearly Deads, you know which one I'm talking about. Nice. That's my picture, dude. Got a photo credit. I don't give a fuck about getting paid. I just wanted to support the scene and share my art with people, my talent. And he made me feel like that was important, that I had the talent, that I had something to share with people. And he encouraged it, and he gave me an avenue to do it. And that, to me, is everything, man. And he was fucking magic, and he did die 9,000 times, and he is fucking like a demigod or some shit. I swear to fucking God. That motherfucker was special. Never in my life, before or since, met anybody like Johnny. He makes you feel seen. He makes you feel important. He makes you feel awesome. And what more can we ever ask for? That's special, and we need to fucking cherish it. And I thank each and every one of you for coming out tonight. It's so good to see you all, and I love everyone, and I love Johnny, and You know this, dude. You're the fucking best. We love you.
Motherfucking bitch!
Brothers, dudes!
This is hard to pour. This is gonna take at least 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 30 seconds to pour it. Just right. You got it. 30 seconds of storytelling.
Fill the balls.
I filled the balls. I'm gonna drink.
Yes, sir.
You all just witnessed my relapse. I was sober. The last time I saw any of you was the last time I drank. I've been sober for 6 years. No, I'm just kidding. It's not that far from the truth. And I don't know, I can corroborate everything that's already been said. I can't say it any better. The Lisa Waters story, that was great because I saw your name. I don't think I know you, Lisa, but I saw your name on the list when I signed, and I remembered Johnny being like, "Dude, you know Lisa Waters?" And then every time I'd see her at a show, I'd stand next to her and think, "Man, I'm standing by Lisa Waters." You know what I mean? And I was like, "Yeah, I know what you mean." Let me see. I was gonna take it down a tender road because I thought it would all be rock and roll, but it's been pretty tender, man. Johnny was not just one-dimensional hard rock all the time. Like, he ran in so many different circles with total ease, like fine wine, nice steaks. Like he was really into food and knew his way around, fine dining. And Gigi Allen, we bonded over like stories about fighting, from our youths. He was like definitely a legend in Estacada. We grew up together in this small town that was dominated, by like jocks and like cowboy type of redneck dudes who were all kind of related to each other, and they were very intimidating because they were big like corn-fed dudes. But there were these stories that about this guy, this freak who had beat all their asses like one by one, literally like fist fought these kids starting in junior high. By the time he got to high school, it was over. Like, he was the king. Nobody fucked with him. And it sounds like it started back in 6th grade or whatever. I hadn't heard that far back, but let's see. We met when he dated my sister for years and years. Maybe they were each other's first or second boyfriends, girlfriends. When they were in high school, I was a few years younger, and he was over to the house one day. Maybe it was the first time I met him. And, he looked out the window and saw this girl walking by, and he was like, "Look at this fucking square. Psh, stupid fucking mom jeans," or something like that. And I turned red. It was my girlfriend who was coming to visit. She would take the bus in from Clackamas to come hang out with me after school. But Johnny would love this. He'd be super, super touched and proud and happy. He might be a little disappointed at all the truth-telling. He's never fond of a truth-telling competition, But he accepted me into the fold after he helped frame me for stealing a Sega Genesis from the video store when I was like 12. There was this, or 13. I must have been in high school or 8th grade. There was this
kid who was my age. We were a few years younger than Johnny. He was an aspiring punk rock kid, and he looked up to Johnny and followed him around, sat with him at lunch. You know, the freak who would like, sit by himself or whatever was Johnny with this. He had like leopard print dyed hair, and this kid followed him around, and Johnny felt bad for him and was like, how can I help you score this video game system? And so they went to the video store. There's like, you know, 2 or 3 in Estacada, and they gave them my name, and the kid took the thing and you know, moved out of town or whatever. And I didn't know anything about it, you know. I'd only just met Johnny a couple times. I was just a kid, you know, like his girlfriend's younger brother. And then it was like a Saturday afternoon. I was just hanging out at the house. Knock on the door, and is a police officer from Clackamas County, and he was like, you know, where are the goods, man? We know you took it. And I was honest. I didn't know what happened, and I you know, I found out the details through my sister, and she was really upset, and so she sort of like, you know, to make up for it, sort of forced Johnny to like take me to do something cool, you know. And so he took me to Warped Tour, which was in like Salem, you know, at like the Salem Armory or something, and that was like the first time we hung out, you know. And from that point, he included me in all sorts of things. We worked together, you know, I don't know, 6 or 7 different places. We used to close down the restaurant at Sam's. That was at the Monarch Hotel in Clackamas. And we would carry whole trays. We would stack, you know, if you worked there, you had to know how to carry the big tray on your hand and like serve from it. And we would stack it full of wine glasses and then like trip each other as we walked down the stairs and like smash them all and lock ourselves in the walk-in and eat like cheesecake, drink beers. And we worked together at the Chez What for a while, and Sunday brunch, you know, after staying up all Saturday night, we would just grind espresso into the coffee thing, and you know, where am I going with it? I don't know.
Keep going.
He included me in a lot. Chemicals was kind of an extension of that, you know, in this this band that had sort of like you know, cred or whatever already. He just wanted his people around, you know, and it was important to him to like make it a family thing, and it's obvious that was kind of extended to everybody. He had this big extended family web that he sort of brought us all into, the great unifier, Johnny motherfucker. But one last story about the old days maybe is appropriate, but I used to tag along, you know, for a lot of things like these Black Rebel shows, and you know, hanging out making flyers with Johnny for I'm not sure, you know, you guys will probably be able to recall when I describe it to you, but it was like, you know, you take a picture or several images to a photocopy machine that was at like a place called Benjamin Franklin. It was like a small department store they have in small towns, and you put the shit on the glass, and then, you know, run the copier over it a few times. One particular image was a Polaroid picture of a toilet, and in the toilet is like a giant turd, like bigger than you would think. Like, take a fucking dump and do it for Johnny. But it was this huge shit that he took, and it was so big that he took a picture of it, and then it was so impressive with a photo that he turned the photo into a flyer for a show that he was promoting. I don't know if it was a Triggers show or if it was Black Rebels or something, but you know, that's the Johnny that I'll remember. So do it for Johnny. Take the fucking dump.
Take it out.
If anybody hasn't told a story yet and they'd like to, we have a little bit of time. Kenton remembered a couple things, and Billy, that reminded me of one of the first times I met you. And again, I don't know if this is truth-telling or what the memory is, but it's Olympia, Washington, 1998. And Johnny and Billy come running around the corner, and I'm about, I don't know, 16, 17 years old. And Johnny's like, they were wearing these Harley Davidson patches on this, like, you know, their denim punk vest. And apparently some actual bikers, no offense to any bikers in the room, saw them and tried to pick a fight with them.
Oh, yeah.
And so Johnny tells me, he goes, "Fucking run! Billy and I just threw these fucking bikers through a storefront window, man, run!" And we go running around the corner, and then they basically told me the story later that they're like, "What your colors?" You know, because they had Harley Davidson, you know, or whatever.
Bottom rocker gets you in trouble every time.
Exactly. So that was the first time I met Billy. Was him and Johnny threw some bikers through a storefront window in Olympia, Washington, 1998. Does anybody else have any other stories before we? We got one more, and then Kenton's got one more. All right.
Hello, everybody. This is sort of tangentially a story about Johnny. The Zero Boys were playing at Slabtown, and Johnny insisted that the chemicals must open for the Zero Boys, and he did everything possible to make it happen, and then realized that he himself was going to be out of town for the show. So, opening that show was Big Ben wearing like a Guy Fawkes mask, I think, and some other stuff. But what was really sweet about that is that even though he wasn't there, Johnny made sure that I got to go see the Zero Boys because I was like 23 and really broke. And he was always just like, yeah, very supportive of everything we did. There was a time when Samantha and I were the only women that used our practice space, and there were mushrooms growing in the bathroom, and we finally had to be like, this is not what we would like. And he took care of the mushroom problem, which was very sweet of him. So appreciate all of you. We'll miss him a lot.
All right, what's up? Hey! I miss this man dearly, as we all do. I have so many stories, all of them special to me. But as everyone's talking, reminded me of a few. There was a Slabtown evening. Triggers were playing. I was like 19. Kenton was always looking old enough to get into the show with a fake ID. I just like grew a beard like 3 years ago for the first time. And Johnny was like, "Dude, I got you." Like, he just brought it, you know, I think Triumph, you just showed up, respect. I think he brought us around the side, and he's like, "Just grab the cab." And then he got Candy, Justin, fucking everyone else, just like formed a literal circle around us, and we just like shuffled the fuck into the Slabtown. I was like, "You're fucking kidding." Like, that was so easy, you made it seem so chill. Yeah, fuck, you made us all feel so special. I live next to a spare room. It's not that great of a story here, but
No, it's good.
They got that thing. Well, they don't anymore. I think we ruined it for them. Where they would take like probably their 6 least selling alcohols, put brown bags on them and number them 1 through 6, and you could roll the dice for like $2, and you get a fat shot of whatever the fuck you rolled. Root beer schnapps. Well gin. And then I happened to land on, which I didn't know what the fuck it was at the time, but he did, Tuaca. I was like, "Oh, dude, you got Tuaca, sick, coming up." I think I had one of those, probably one of each of what I just mentioned. Went outside just instantly. And they got like the video cameras from like outside, but it's right behind the bar, so I'm pretty sure y'all just saw me just like barely make it out the door and start spewing. But then we came back in, I was like, "Dude, I don't know if I could do like another one of those." He was like, "One Waka?" So yeah, one Waka became our little. As someone mentioned earlier, that you could make an inside joke with him, and it was just like the funniest fucking thing. But no one else got it. One Waka. Yeah.
So I just have a quick one about corroborating stories, because for most of the time, and we've all like joked about, Johnny wouldn't like truth telling or anything like that, and so for most of the time I knew Johnny, right? Like I took most of his stories with a grain of salt, you know, and I'd be like I heard that he was the valedictorian of his school for years, and I was always like, okay, yeah, that's cool, Johnny. Like, you don't need to impress me, but like, that's cool if you need. Like, all right, I love that, you know. And you know, and so it was like, it's funny because so many of these stories that always seem larger than life, like later on, somebody else is like, oh yeah. So like for me, with like specifically the valedictorian story, was a friend that I know from like art connections that I've met in recent years, and we were just talking one day, and he was talking about growing up in Estacada, and I was like, oh, well, when did you go to Estacada High or whatever? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, did you know a guy named John Harbin? And he's like, oh fuck yeah! You know, he was the fucking valedictorian of our school, and you know, and proceeds to tell me everything that Johnny's ever told me that I thought was bullshit, you know. And I'm just like, fuck, okay. And so, along those lines, when I realized at one point that I was the person who could validate the take a dump thing. So I didn't live here when Take a Dump like took off, and so like I didn't understand it, and he would just be like, Dougie, Truggy, what's up, take a dump? And I'm like, oh, all right, man, take a dump. I don't get it. And he was just always like, take a dump, and I'm just like, and I had no idea. And then it wasn't until we moved back, which was like after Johnny was sick and stuff. We were partying at his house, and Justin is like, doesn't believe the take a dump story that he said. And he's like, yeah, Johnny's got this bullshit story about being at a show and like this kid like takes a dump or blah blah blah. And I'm like, and Johnny's like, dude, you gotta tell Justin about take a dump. And I'm just like, Johnny, what are you fucking talking about? Like, what do you mean I gotta tell him about take a dump? I don't know what the fuck that is. And he's like, no, dude, you told me the story about how you were at that show and that kid, like, his band was playing and he tried to take a dump and everybody started chanting, take a dump, take a, and immediately I was like, oh shit, you're right. And it was like, I think like maybe Carla's band from Winnipeg was like in town, like Seve, I don't know if you were there, like there was somebody else we know at this show, but I cannot remember who it was. But like, and I was only there because like a friend whose band was on tour was playing this like shitty house on Gleason and like on the other side of the highway right there. I could like point it out to you. It was like a fucking meth house. It was bullshit. And we're at this house and this band is playing and they're like, fuck this place. And the guy's like, I'm gonna take a dump right here in the living room because the show is going on in the living room. And everybody just starts doing, take a dump, take a dump. And the guy like pulls his pants down. I mean, it was totally like the Mr. Show skit where David Cross tries to shit on the American flag and can't. Like, that's what was happening. And so like I told Johnny this story. I'm like, yeah, it was crazy. I went to this show, this kid tried to take a dump, like whatever. And then it was like, and then I moved away. And then like 5 years later, everybody's like, Doug, take a dump. And I'm just like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. So I'm sorry for taking a dump.
Oh, dude, that's a. That's what these do. It'll fill your tummy. Yeah! There it is. Nice. That's a good one. It instantly makes you feel older. I mean, I feel like the exact
All right, I'm back. So this is going to be incredibly hard to follow Billy because this is like, from what I understand about stand-ups, like when someone kills, you just like are so bummed, and that's what happened because Billy. All of you have done wonderful. With Billy, I was in tears. This story takes place at Jonny Cat World Headquarters, which was a practice space / office space off of 16th and Burnside. Is that right, Billy?
Yeah, 15th Avenue.
15th.
You're way off. Get off the stage.
Listen, I had rumble minutes. Leave me alone.
Come on, man.
Can't remember everything. So we're hanging out there one night, and I'm helping paint his office, bubblegum pink. And I am currently in a relationship with a woman that I'm infatuated with, but wants to keep things way more lax than I want. But, you know, I'll take what I can get. And I'm texting her as we're painting. I really want to go over there and stay the night. She's not responding. And Jonny gives me the best, worst advice I've ever experienced in my life. He says, dude, just text her, call me if you don't want me to come over. And I think about it for a second, I'm like, oh my God, it's genius. All I want is acknowledgement. So like, worst case scenario, she calls me. Best case scenario, I go over there. And at the time, I had a 1965 Barracuda with a 318 motor that was loud as hell. You could hear me from a mile away rolling up. And she lived out in Selwood. And I drove out there and felt good about it. And, you know, that changed pretty quickly. Because obviously we'd been drinking and it was late. And I texted her, no response. Perfect, she didn't call me. So she obviously wanted me to come over. And I drive out there, I reach for the spare key, and I start fumbling with the door lock. And she opens the door and says, Kenton? I'm like, yeah, what's up? And soon it becomes clear that she doesn't want company, and that's fine. But I'm a little bummed. But I took it in stride, got back in the car, fired it up, woke up all the neighbors, and I'm driving across the Selwood Bridge, and I called Jonny. I'm like, dude, it didn't work. He's like, oh, dude, you want to come over? I'm like, yeah, fuck it. He's like, where are you? I'm like, I'm coming across the Selwood Bridge. He's like, perfect. So I jam up, what is it? What's the road?
Taylor's Ferry Road.
Taylor's Ferry Road, which basically drops me at his house. So I go up the hill, pull to his house, and this is the first time I've been to his and Judy's house. And I call him when I arrive. I'm like, you know, put it in the GPS. I call him when I arrive. I'm like, I think I'm here. He's like, cool, walk up the driveway, open the door. I come in, he's laying in bed, no shirt, and he's like, what's up, Dad? And proceeds to open his bedstand, which is a refrigerator, mini refrigerator, and grabs me an icy cold frosty dog. I said, what happened, man? And I sit there and I talk with him about what happened and how I'm feeling about life and all this shit.
he just sat there and listened. And then I played some pinball on Party Zone.
Party Zone.
Party Zone. And then his cat, Mr. Crazy Bones, which was a hairless, large cat, came walking around, and I, laid on the couch, was petting Mr. Crazy Bones.
Rest in peace.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Crazy Bones.
And this story doesn't really have like a moral of a story or anything, but this is just one of the great memories that I have of the best bad advice I've ever gotten in my life. I don't regret it. I had an awesome time. And Johnny would say things like, I knew it was wrong, but I did it anyways. And that's kind of how I felt. I'm like, all right, I knew it was wrong, but, what do you have to lose? It just, he had a way of making things so clear, like, weirdly so.
Amen.
And, and also, like, depending on how the rest of the night goes, I'd love to hear more stories. All of the stories tonight have been incredible, and I really appreciate hearing, and I'm glad that this is, like, to have all of close friends here exchanging these stories. And there's so much about the guy that we don't really know. It is, he is mythological in some sense. Magic, sure.
I didn't know his last name for a decade.
Until you put it in the video.
And I didn't want to know it. Because I wanted plausible deniability.
Rightfully so.
I was expecting a police officer to come to my door and be like, Jonathan Harbin, and I just want to be like,
don't know
never
anyone
heard that name in my life.
Well,
Hey, Justin. There's some story about some beers that were allowed to be bought.
There you go. Go
Okay,
ahead.
copy
Go
that.
ahead.
All right, anyone, this is the last call for anyone who didn't sign up, any Johnny stories. If not, we have one more Johnny video to play you, which maybe could be queued up now by anyone who knows how to do that. Kenton, thank you for setting this up with me. We were going to Doug and Courtney's wedding in Newport, Oregon, and Kenton was driving some Germans, and I think me for a minute, and then Johnny met us at the skate park in Lincoln City, and we changed into tuxedos at the skate park. And there were kids skateboarding, and we're in our boxer shorts and under putting on our tuxedos. And then we're starting to drive, and I didn't know the Oregon coast very well at that point. He's like, you don't know Devil's Punch Bowl? What are you talking about? Okay, I gotta show you. Oh, this espresso is really good. Oh, this is where I used to surf, man. Oh, you should. We took this guy's radiator out one time. We dumped it over the side. Blah, blah. We take the long way. And we show up super late to Doug and Courtney's wedding, which was a very short ceremony. And felt very bad, and I still do, and I apologize again. It was Andy Foote, and he was called Andy Foote. He used to play in his socks for some reason.
No, his last name is Foote.
His last name is Foote.
Also,
you learn something new every day.
But he also played in socks.
He would play in socks, but he came out and he's like, I'm sorry, you guys. You missed the wedding. And we're like, ha ha ha, very funny. He's like, no, I'm serious. And so then, anyway, sorry guys. It was Johnny's fault, not mine. And so then afterwards, we went out to the beach in Newport, and they ran out of beer. And so Johnny and I are like, let's go. It's like 1:50. We drive to the store in Newport. I'm in line. I grab 2 24-packs, and I put it on the thing. And they were having this chit-chat where it was like, beep, beep, and having this, oh, yeah, good to see you. And it was like, 250, 159, and they're like, sorry sir, we can't sell it to you. I'm like, are you kidding? I was like, I had the cash, I was ready. So I went out to the parking lot, I'm like, Johnny, start the van. So then I went back in and I grabbed the 24 packs and ran out, jumped in the van, and we're flying back to the beach, and we see these police sirens, and the police sirens are flying to the grocery store, and Johnny takes this little side road, and we get there and we show up. Everyone's like, yeah, we're going to bed. And we're like, do you know what we went through? So these 24 packs. And so then Johnny, Kenton, and I didn't have a hotel room, and we slept in Johnny's van in the hotel parking lot and just drank the beers and talked. And the next day, Johnny drove back to the grocery store, and he gave them $20. And they said, what is this for? And he goes, these are for the beers my friend stole last night. Then he drove away, and that was Johnny.
That's
Because
Johnny.
it was class, pure class, and thank you all for coming. Last, one more? Okay.
Sassy, classy, never trash.
Just to follow up that story, the next day, Johnny told my mom the whole story. My mom loved Johnny, of course, like everyone, and he was like, "Glenda, I gotta tell you something that happened last night," and then told the whole story. He's like, "Don't worry though, I paid for those beers."
Let's keep it going.
Okay. Billy, you guys might know, Justin can't help me because he can't talk much.
Get him up there.
So Johnny on tour would like live off of skipjack tuna cans. And it had to be skipjack tuna. He also loved the peppermint schnapps, which this I think is. Yeah, that's not peppermint schnapps.
Oh, that's peppermint schnapps, baby.
Well, here's what I remember about Johnny would always come up with these little rip rap songs. And if I remember it right,
it goes something like this. Said rip, rap, and rock, country and R&B. If you don't drink that peppermint schnapps, you disrespected me.
But then he changed it to, here's what I think. A rip, rap, a skip, a jack, a rip, rap, rippity-doo. If you don't drink my peppermint schnapps, you're disrespecting Jage.
He would like show up on tour with like a fucking old satchel full of cans of skipjack tuna. That's it. He's like ready to go. And he'd be driving and fucking sit there and eat skipjack tuna. I can't. I'm not shitting.
And for all of you driving drunk home tonight, do not take a sip at a red light. You must not. That's how you get busted. That's what he told me. That's the law. Do not sip at the red light. That's the Jonny Cat rule.
Yeah. Watch out for the man with the
Alright, I'm pulling this down, which means the video is going to come on. It's a good one. Yeah.
We don't know it's coming on.
You must.
You must.
While we're waiting for the video, this is a short one, but one of my other favorite things is how all of us have adopted Johnny's like vernacular, and even my kids. I hung out with Johnny a few just right before Christmas, and I was like doing things for him, and I told him dude, my kids are going yaw to stuff, and I'm like, and they're doing that because I'm like yaw, and I just love that. I love that all of us know what you must means, and it's oh shit, I must, and it's non-debatable, and I think that is something that will live on, and it's hilarious that my kids are yaw, Anyway, all right.
You could just bro down. You could have a good time. I mean, we were gonna have a good time. I mean, that's it. You're gonna have a good time. It was gonna be funny. Something stupid might happen and you'd probably end up regretting it. They could push you back into your childhood a little bit. They could push you back into your juvenile, retarded, idiotic fucking state of being, and you might do something really stupid. And that's kind of priceless. You know what I mean? That's something that it's not gonna happen a lot once you're an adult, Thanks, guys. Is that it?
Thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Good stuff. How was that? You feel good?
It's a weird mind trip, man. Actually, it's kind of fucking with me a little bit.